Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Jewish Stripper, Raw and Real with Alla Kaplan. I'm Alla Kaplan, your host. And the conversation continues. Part 2 interview with Mindy Jackson, Season 3, Episode 26. Mindy is a licensed therapist, Reiki master, and spirit coach. And so we continue our deep dive into the world of Mindy Jackson. And it was funny. I was telling you the last time that I went to the Reiki master and she felt my mom through me and said something about her bones. And the other day, my mom was not feeling good. And I kept saying, would you just go to the doctor already? Just go make an appointment. The doctor is 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes up the street. And I said, with the driving distance, and I said, just go to the doctor. And the doctor said, oh, by the way, you need to have your bone test. And I've been telling her, hey, the Reiki master said that you need to check your bones. And so it's like
she needs to watch for a hip
so
hip break.
Well, she complains all the time about knees and her back used to hurt all the time. That was from sitting at work because she was sitting 8 hours a day at work or more.
Yeah.
So now, her back's not hurting so much, but I think that
well, that bone density test is really helpful in knowing if a person is going to potentially have a broken hip.
breakage,
For older people, it's the hip breaks and then they fall.
right?
It's not they fall and the hip breaks because they
It's the
fell.
break.
It
It's the hip.
breaks and then they fall.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, like with everything going on, on top of everything going on, we're trying to sell her condo because she's basically not living there, paying a condo fee, paying property taxes. And I'm like, this is a money pit and we can't afford to remodel it. So I'm like, well, you're going to have to take what you can get. And she needs that money for retirement because of other stuff that happened, that she lost a lot of money that she thought she was going to invest, and the investment didn't come through. And so it was just a mess. It was a big mess. And that's why she had to move in with me. And on top of that, and she had the breast cancer. Now, I'm like, make an appointment for a new mammogram. Please, please, please. Hurry up, make up an appointment. And I love her, but it's like, she's 75. So she's mentally moving at a snail's pace. And I'm an action person. And I'm like, I don't like procrastination. I like, if something has to be done, let's get it done.
Yeah.
And especially if you've already had breast cancer before, you need to have the mammogram again.
You need to have that scheduled out every year.
Yeah. And absolutely. And she's like, oh, I need to go to the gynecologist. I said, yeah, I know. And
go.
And she goes, I made an appointment. Yeah, she said, I made an appointment and it's this doctor. And she goes, do you know him? I said, yeah, I've been there several times every year. I know him very well. I'm surprised he's not retired himself because he's an older gentleman. But so I'm going to be really disappointed if the first part didn't record. That's just, I had to do that.
It is what it is. The universe will let you know what is needed and what's not.
So the first time I did a Zoom meeting with someone, what happened was, I didn't know about the 40-minute limit on the basic plan. So it was 40 minutes and then we recorded a second one and then I didn't know how to splice them together. So I just did part 1, part 2. So, but I think with you, we may have like 3 or 4 parts because there's so much involved.
It is what it is.
There's so much involved and you can't explain the what did you call them?
Micro expressions.
Micro expressions which I think that people just call them tells, right?
Mm,
Like when people are lying,
I can just tell. Hmm.
right? It's a tell. Like they might scratch their face or, I don't know, touch their nose or ear or like scratch their head or they're like little signs that, right? Isn't that what cops do? Like detectives when they're interviewing people, who they think are guilty. Aren't they like Aren't they like watching, their expressions? Because
Hmm.
these guys are like experts at picking up those little tells, right? Have you ever had to like work with someone like that, where
Like what?
like criminals, or like when you knew that's like something was not for the for for the sake of argument kosher? That's that's but
Well,
you
I
ever
mean,
had
I've worked
somebody?
with
Yeah,
I've worked with a lot of different kinds, but not specifically purposefully working with criminals.
right.
Um,
But you
but I
picked
have
up
had
on
a lot of
something,
training and dealt with the criminal mindset for sure.
right?
Uh, but you know, what I've noticed is that people are deceptive in therapy, but not necessarily for the same reasons they are in society. Oftentimes the person is intimidated a bit.
Yeah,
Sometimes there's a lot of shame around something, so people don't want to, disclose those things. Sometimes people have not had the amount of love and attention they needed, and so they will exaggerate some things sometimes. So,
right,
I don't look at it and of course, as a therapist, staying non-judgmental is really
right.
important so that I could stay with my client and understand where they're coming from rather than trying to say, "Oh, well, they're lying to me," then blah, 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 blah. And I've seen that. I have seen that in some of these agencies before, and I'm like, "Go get more training
Huh.
because I'm gonna judge you."
Yeah, because they just let it go.
Well, or they just, they get judgmental because they are limited in their understanding of why the person is using deception. And it's not to, like, do anything bad
Right, it's not
necessarily. It's
harmful.
for lots of different
They
reasons.
just don't want to
It's like,
deal with something, maybe.
yeah, like sometimes they are not ready to go to talk about something,
Right,
or there's a lot of shame around it. There's a
right.
lot of reasons. So if somebody is, in an agency setting, for example, and they're working with that client and they know that the person's lying, well, first of all, what are they lying about?
Yeah.
Then look at why might they lie? Would you put yourself in their shoes and do the same thing or not?
Hmm.
Based on who they are and what they've been through and why they're lying in the moment or being deceptive or
And
whatever.
like
So,
remember that they're human. They're a human
well,
being.
this is the reason why it's one of the reasons why we're not meant to judge each other. Now, do we need to be able to assess things? Yes. If I'm, in the court of law, if there's been a criminal act and so there's an offense against someone or something, then if that person has been deceptive about it, then I need to know that. I need to know my understanding at that point is they're going to lie because they don't want to get caught. They don't want to deal with the consequences, which is the typical reason why most people lie to begin with.
Right,
Whether the consequences are, oh, my therapist sees me and I'm afraid they're going to judge me, or, oh shit, I'm
right.
going to prison because I killed somebody. Right. So, you know, it's not for us to judge whether a person's really necessarily a good person or not
Yeah, I had a
based
therapist that
on
I never heard this before. And I was telling my therapist that like every guy that I had ever been with, it's what it seemed like I wasn't, in the relationship between him and the next person. So I didn't know what their relationship was like, but it seemed like the guy treated his next woman better than he treated me. And I was telling this therapist, and she goes, "Oh, you're a groomer." I was like, out of the blue. I was like, "Oh, I've never heard that before." So I didn't know, like, I didn't know anything about how people groom you and you could be a groomer. And I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Did she say that you were the groomer or the
She
groomee?
called me the groomer. Like that and I was like, what does that mean? That I prepared the guy, that I like changed him so much into a better person for the next woman? Because I really have a hard time believing that
No.
narcissists, especially that a narcissist can change, because as far as I know, narcissists don't really change, don't ever change.
Well, and the truth here really is we don't change anybody. They either choose to change
Right.
themselves based on the experience or not.
Exactly. If they maybe if the
So
person
if he healed
chose
a little bit, then maybe he treated the next person better because he healed a little bit.
maybe a
And
little better, but you know, I mean, what like I mean, with my ex-husband, like like I've met him for a drink once in a while, occasionally, after I forgave him for everything, and I met him, and he was acting like the exact same person that I knew for the last 30 years since our divorce. And I was like I
has
met him,
changed.
for instance, for a drink where he told me that my best friend that I used to work with, we used to dance together, stripping, and we drove everywhere together. We spent, the entire summer together, and we were best friend. And he told me that she had passed away without any backup as to how, where, why. He just told me, oh, I heard that this person passed away. And I had actually been searching for her because we lost contact. And I started bawling immediately because at that point I didn't even, by the way, she turned out to be alive.
Hmm.
She turned out to be alive. I found her on Facebook.
Was he misunderstood?
So
Was
no,
he
no,
mistaken or was he
he was
purposefully doing
saying that
that?
so and so through the grapevine told him that she passed away. And I was like, where is your proof? Where's your proof? But at the same time, I'm bawling because suddenly I'm feeling this loss. And I was like, you know what? You're the same. I don't know why I even came around you, because you're the exact same person. Because at that point, we were actually supposed to meet so he could apologize to me for things from the past.
That's a hell of an
And so
apology.
rather than apologize to me for things from the past, he's telling me that my best friend is deceased. And then so I'm like, you know what? I said, narcissists just don't change. Not really.
Well, I mean, if he knew that that was a lie and he was doing it anyways, that was a little bit more sociopathic kind of thing.
Well, there's the with narcissist, it could be sociopathic too. It could be and with that one, it's the whole bowl of wax.
Oh, a sociopath always has not really strong narcissism.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always about, you know, taking the focus off of their stuff. But going back, I want to go back to the quantum physics, because that I really have to go back and read that book from the beginning and read it all the way through, because it really fascinated me about how I started to read after that, about manifestation and abundance, and how, you can cleanse, what I call cleanse the clutter out of your head. Like, the clutter that's been sitting there for years and years and years with people who are, renting room in your head for free. And not just that, but just in general, just like getting rid of old patterns and changing behavior. And I started to understand that if I wanted to change my life, if I wanted to change how I interact with people, if I want to leave any type of legacy, even though I have no kids of my own, I have to change how I deal with people. And I still have a hard time. I still have a hard time. My neighbor has a tree, she won't cut it down. It drives me crazy. It's like a holly tree, and the holly leaves are like prickly and they kill you, they poke you, they come in your house, your car, whatever. And I've asked her like 1,000 times, cut it down. And she swears that the HOA is responsible for it, and the HOA says she's responsible for it. And I'm so like, I can't be nice to this lady. I can't, I don't know how to be. I just started to like not talk to her at all because with the first time when I said, "Oh, you know what? Your tree's kind of like a mess and it's making a mess, and could you, have it cut down?" And she would like, it was like, "Oh, I love my tree."
Could she just not cut back the part that was
She, if,
affecting
if you
your
trim
your land?
the holly tree, if you trim it, it grows back exactly the same way. And I
Mhm.
literally went out and ordered a trimming thing from Amazon and got on the stairs, and because it was hanging over my car. That's how bad it was. It was hanging over my car because I have a handicap space there. And the association, when I asked them for a handicap space, put it right under the tree. And so the first time several years ago when I asked her, and we were friends. We were friends on Facebook, and she'd come over and give me birthday cards. And when she couldn't charge her cell phone at her house for some reason, she'd come to my house. And one day I said, because the tree was bleeding all over my car. My car was brown from the flowers. So I said, could you have something done with your tree? And she's like, oh no, I love my tree. And she travels. She travels with her boyfriend all the time. She's out of town constantly. So she's not really like sitting there enjoying her tree. It's not like she's staring at it 24/7. And so at first I was like cursing at her and angry and saying nasty things. And, eventually I just said, I don't. And one day I was like, it was getting ready to storm. And I said, you know what? I said, gosh darn it. And that's not exactly how I said it. I said, gosh darn it. I'm going to trim that darn tree because if it falls on my car and it breaks something on my car, I'm going to have to kill her. So so she I went and I got this thing, like a 3-in-1 thing for like $100 on Amazon. And I went and got my ladder that I have, and I got up on the ladder and I started trimming the tree where it was hanging off my car and somebody was helping me throw the branches. We threw the branches in her front yard. And yeah, like I can, I can be not, I don't want to say vindictive,
Passive aggressive.
maybe a little bit. Yeah. So, I mean, like her boyfriend, he would, they don't live together, but they've been together like 20 years, her and her boyfriend. So, which is probably like the best, marriage ever. Because I honestly don't think like married people should live together 24/7. So that's probably why their relationship works. And so, one day he was talking to my dog, and instead of saying, what's the dog's name? He's like, hello, doggy. Or he said something like, he didn't even say doggy. He said, oh, hello, canine. And I was like, the dog has a name. I was like, don't talk to the dog anymore. So, so I had to think about how I interact with her and her boyfriend and just in general, my neighbors and, you know, when I'm out in the world, you know, what am I saying to people? And it's hard because, like, you know, when you're driving and people are, you know, there's so much rage out there on the road. Like, at my job, for instance, we have, I'm not gonna tell you what I really do, like, during my day job, but, I'll put it like this, where it's involved with debt recovery. And we turned out to have a couple that owed a rent on a, you know, abandoned apartment, whatever. They were evicted. Turned out that they murdered a woman on the highway, not far from a young woman of like 23 years old who had three children. And they shot her on the highway out of road rage. And so, I mean, and how my boss found out is I called one of their mothers and they told me, oh, he's in jail for murder. I called one of the mother. And so my boss went and, you know, looked it up on the local news station. And sure enough, there's their picture. They're both in jail. And so it's like, it's scary. Like, how do you, like, let me ask you this as a therapist, as a, you know, counselor, how do you advise people to deal with that kind of stuff?
In what capacity exactly?
I mean,
Like
like,
the fear
I guess
or
how do you take the all that, you know, when you go to the store and people are rude to you and it just, like, you know, it builds and builds and builds. Like, you might
Mhm,
just have a really bad day and
mhm.
somebody, you know, on top of maybe having already a bad day, someone at the store, you know, rams their cart into yours or, you know, passes you, almost runs you over with their cart or something. How do you deal with these little negative things?
Well, I think it starts with what is your thought about it? What are you thinking in that moment? Say somebody rams their cart into you, what is your thought?
I mean, it's like it's almost like it's a you know, I hate to say it. I hate to admit it, but I'm going to admit it. The first thought in my head is probably some nasty words.
So, what would lead you to say the nasty words would be another thought before that thought. So, your awareness of what you're thinking is the first step. So,
Mhm.
if somebody rams a cart into your cart and your first thought is they're being rude, then your response to somebody being rude is based on your filters, based on what you've learned, based on what you choose, based on your mood, right? Depends on lots of different factors as to how you might respond. So if you're like, oh, they probably didn't mean to, you're not going to want to call them names. You're going to be like, oh,
Whatever.
and move on.
Yeah.
But if you think that they're doing it on purpose, this is why when you have thought disorders, right?
Yeah.
People who are potentially always thinking somebody's out to get them, for example. So if
Right.
that paranoia is telling them, "Oh, this person did that on purpose. They came here just to get me."
Yeah. I,
Right? Right?
I,
Then if that person's thinking is in error, then they're going to respond in a way that's probably not so healthy. But if the person is just say you're having a bad day and you've had frustration after frustration and you haven't really processed everything and you're holding it all in and somebody bumps into your buggy, it may be the very last straw. And
mhm.
your thought is one more damn thing,
Yeah.
right? And the thought after that is how rude or I can't believe you did that. Then you're going to start thinking in terms of attack.
Right.
But if you are in a normal everyday mood, you're not going to, not typically.
Yeah. If you're like on an even,
So my answer to your question is being mindful. using mindful awareness. How am I feeling physically,
Hmm.
mentally, emotionally? What am I thinking? Can I monitor? Can I notice? Can I be aware of what my thoughts are? Now,
Yeah.
we have billions and billions of thoughts a day.
Self-control.
We can it's not possible really, I don't think, for us to know every thought we have.
Right.
But if we are mindful, say we're in a mood, all right? If I'm in a mood, then I need to make the effort to
Like
be
check
more mindful
yourself.
of what I'm thinking. Yes, I
Yeah.
need to check me so that I don't inadvertently cause harm because hurt people, right?
Right.
So, how do we stop and have world peace?
World peace. That's
We start with each individual person knowing how to manage their own stuff,
right.
your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and your behavior.
Yeah. Or I mean, a world peace is a large order. That's a big order.
I mean, like Michael Jackson said, it starts with the man in the mirror, right? If you want
Yeah.
to see the world change, you got to start with the man in the mirror. So we truly, individually as well as collectively, have to be more mindful. We have to choose love over fear, choose peace, choose to, okay, is there another reason this person could have done that rather than they're just being an
Yeah.
asshole?
Yeah. Like almost on
So
a
if I can
date.
check me, now if somebody's just coming at me and they're like, "Oh, I hate redheads," and they ram my card, I'm gonna be like, "Excuse me."
Yeah. No, I don't
That
even. No one, I don't think anyone rammed my card on purpose. I think, or I don't think like, this woman planted the tree, you know, the tree was there before my handicap space was there.
and
And
technically it was right on her property, right?
well, that's the debate is that the front because it's a HOA, because it's a townhouse with a
Mhm,
little front yard.
mhm.
So, the question is the HOA responsible? Is it her property or is it their property?
Did she plant the tree?
I don't know. I don't know.
That would be my thought is whoever planted the tree. Now, if the HOA says you can plant what you want to on your little spot,
Right.
but here
Yeah.
are the
And
parameters,
people
here are the
do.
rules
And
about
people
it.
do. And so
Right.
I think she planted the tree
Right.
like 30, 40 years ago,
Well,
probably.
even if she didn't plant it, let's say it was already there and she moves in and she likes the tree, she technically has ownership of that tree.
Well, you just for liking it, you don't take ownership, but
Well, I
you
mean,
know,
like if you take ownership of that space, right?
yeah.
Even if it's temporary, let's say you move in for
Yeah.
2 years and then you move out.
Your
In
renter.
that two
Yeah.
years, if HOA says you can plant what you want to, whatever's in this spot
I'm telling you,
is
nobody wants
yours.
to take responsibility for this tree for nothing. I think, and I mean, believe me, I've had like daydreams about taking something and cutting it at the base and yelling timber, but that then it might hit somebody's house or somebody's car. So I'm checking myself because
Right. You're
I'm
thinking
not
about the
going to
consequences.
do an action that's going to come
Mhm.
back to harm me.
Right.
That's not
Now,
going to
as a
come back.
therapist, I would probably say, let's lean into why it bothers you, right?
Yeah.
What is it about those little leaves and the stickeries? What is it about,
Yeah.
them getting on your car? What is it about that that's so bothersome, right?
Yeah. Because my car is white and it turns brown from the flowers in the
And
summer.
then what? And you have to do what?
And then it gets in my trunk and then it gets in my house and I have nerve damage in my foot. So sometimes I'll step on a leaf and I won't feel it right away and they're
Mm,
prickly. So it
that's
hurts. Or they'll be in my car. They'll be in the
mm,
out the bottom of my car. So it's
mhm.
cra I mean, it's I know it's
Okay.
very like
Okay.
minute and something that's very minute
Well,
and
that's
that
about perspective too. So if your car's getting brown and you're having to go wash it twice a week,
right.
that's money out of your pocket, right?
Yeah,
If you have a health issue and those things are causing problems, let's say you get an infection
nobody
because it's
cares.
poking you in the foot, then that's a medical issue,
Trust me.
But I'm not a judge
But
and
yeah,
I'm not a H.
We
Oh,
have
no.
got, and I know, and I've gone on the HOA Zoom meeting and expressed my, should I say, dissatisfaction with the situation. And it just, it just, everybody just keeps tossing the ball in somebody else's court. So it's just, it's
Passing the
useless.
blame.
It's useless. It's just
You
useless.
just have to not go barefoot, and
Yeah. Well,
I would give the HOA a invoice for all of the car washes.
yeah, I did. And I got, you know what? I got a thing for a spray wash to wash my own car. So I don't have to go, I went and got
Still a lot of effort
a
too.
power washer. Yeah, it's a lot of effort.
But I mean, we
I
get
mean, the
sap
car
on
has
our
to get washed
trees.
at
I
some
mean,
point anyway,
yeah.
but
I think
but
the bigger issue would be the potential health issue.
but then well, I might wear open toe shoes, and the especially when fall starts to come and it's windy and the leaves start blowing around. But thank you. I had so many questions, like with the Reiki and the spiritual coaching. I didn't get a chance to go in. So we have time. So I
Jump
didn't get
in
a chance to go into the spiritual coaching, and how does that go into the counseling together?
sometimes. Some I do
Yeah,
it separately also.
right. And what is, for people out there like me who doesn't know, what is spiritual coaching?
So spiritual coaching. So if I'm doing spiritual coaching separate from my psychotherapy clients, what I'm doing is I'm listening first of all to what is the challenge that this person's bringing. And I live in the Bible Belt. So oftentimes I have people come in who are struggling with how the religious overtones
Hmm.
are in conflict with what they are learning about themselves and their personal experiences.
Right.
Sometimes they're talking about how they merge, and I get that because I've had both myself. Um, I'm looking at what are their primary, I do sort of an assessment. What are their primary psychic gifts? Are they clairsentient, claircognizant, clairvoyant? We all have all the clairs, or we have the capabilities for all of them, but some develop more than others.
Right.
And it just depends on the person's experience as to which ones are the strongest. So I usually I put all of them down and then I rate each one. I put them in order of the strongest to the weakest. And we use the stronger ones and we work on developing the weaker ones so that they can all be as even as possible and help that person have a more well-rounded experience. But one of the most important aspects is teaching people how to ground. And it's not always about grounding to the earth. That is very important, but learning how to ground within one's own body.
Hmm.
What if you're in an airplane and you need to ground? You imagine your feet on the earth, or you just go into your body where you know it feels. You remember what it feels
Hmm.
like to put your feet on the earth. That cellular memory's there. So is that ancestral memory. So
Yeah.
really, it's not about some outward practice. That's helpful. It helps you focus on what you're doing and helps you teach, helps you learn and integrate things, but it's really about going within. And this is what, if you know the teachings of Yeshua, Jesus, then, what he said was very similar to the mystics of the East or other mystics of the East. The kingdom of heaven is within. Now, I like to say the queendom of heaven, but,
Yeah.
we can call it gender neutral.
Yeah. Neutral. I think of it
Neutral
all as
dumb. I don't know. We're
I
gonna
think of
come up
it
with a new
as
word.
male, female together.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, and we are becoming a new being too.
Yeah.
So the other aspect is I hear a lot of people coming to me because they're recognizing that almost suddenly they're having insights that they didn't have before, that they are having psychic experiences, they're having vivid dreams, they're having all these different experiences, and they look it up and they look for all these different alternative metaphysical understandings and the catchword ascension. Now, the name of my business is Ascension Counseling Services, and I did that on purpose.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think, oh, I'm raising up. Well, your vibration can be going up if you're practicing things like compassion and gratitude and joy, and you're transmuting dense, heavy energies, and you're learning to change these different patterns of behavior in your life and negative core beliefs. So you're doing the inner work, you're doing the healing, right? But what is, in a nutshell, spiritual coaching? It is me as the coach helping a person go within and find connection with whatever is divine, whatever that meaning for is for them.
Okay. Well, you know, um, it's so interesting to me when you say, grounding oneself in oneself rather than people think that, your feet need to be on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is helpful, yes. And there literally is an energy exchange between our human energetic field and the earth. And when you walk barefoot on the earth, many people know this, you have that negative ion exchange, and it literally helps shift the energy of your energetic. It shifts the frequency of your body and it helps ground you. How do you know you're ungrounded?
I hope I didn't bore you with my neighbor story too much. But because that's when I see that person, I have to shift away to be grounded in myself in
What if
order
you were
to
grounded in yourself and then you approach her?
you know what? We're at the point where I don't approach
Or
because
what if you ran into her?
well, I have, and it was weird because it was like one day I was like, is she following me? Because I went to a store and I came out of the store and her car was there, and then the following week I went to a store and her boyfriend and her were at the store, and the boyfriend comes up to me and asks me, does your Honda have expired tags? And I said, first of all, I don't know what you're talking about. I drive a Toyota. I don't know why you're up in my face asking me about expired tags. And he was like, "Oh, well then, okay, it's not yours." And I was like, okay, it's too much of a coincidence. Last week and this week, and then I go like, my whole life, I'm going around everywhere doing my errands, and I don't see you. And then I see you 2 weeks in a row where I am. So, and I don't want to flatter myself by saying, oh, she's following me. She just happened to be where I am. That's what I told myself. So, but it was weird. It was just real weird. And then I see the boyfriend while he's talking to me, she's off on the side cackling. She's like literally cackling, like hee hee hee
Well,
hee.
what you're describing is classic power struggle.
Yeah, and it is. That's it. That's it. And
I
I
want
just
this. I don't want that.
right.
Who's got the power to do blank?
Well, I
And
decided that
you got
I
the
do
power to
not
cut
want
down
to
what's on your
engage.
side.
I don't engage anymore. I
Yeah.
decided I just
Sometimes
don't.
if you cannot come to a reconciliation or some kind of a
Yeah,
negotiation, sometimes the best thing to do is just to back away and let it go.
yeah.
As long as you're not getting hurt.
And that's
Now,
what
if
I
you're getting
did.
hurt, that,
And that's what I
take
did.
that
But
to
I
the
cut the tree
HOA again.
myself.
Yeah.
I just went and cut the tree myself because I
So
didn't want the
spirit
branches falling on my car.
so what if you and I feel like I'm being a therapist here at this
I know.
so here's
Free
some
session.
spiritual
Thank you.
coaching, right?
Free session.
What
Thank you.
what if you were to look at this whole challenge, if you were to shift your perspective, so and here's the shifting of the perspective and why it's important. When we're in the midst of something that's so emotionally charged, it's like we have our nose pressed up against a billboard. We can't see the whole billboard. We can only see right here, so we get kind of a tunnel vision, right? It's not until we shift our perspective, then we can go, oh, okay, now I see that that's a McDonald's billboard or
Well, I
whatever,
feel
right?
like I'm
Not
talking
promoting
through a wall.
McDonald's, I
Yeah.
promise. But if you could shift your perspective back and you see this whole situation on a billboard, what is the lesson spiritually there for you?
I don't know. I think
Release of control.
not being reactive. Yeah.
Okay. So being able to
And this,
regulate
this is
yourself.
actually important because I think people who have like maybe 15 minutes, 14 minutes left, I think that it is important because you know what? We're not that far from Christmas when people are shopping and they're in the parking lot and people do seem to be more impatient at a time when, when they're um when we're supposed to have, what's the you know g- um more faith on earth and the grace, we're supposed to be giving each other more grace
Yeah.
and patience
Mhm,
and love and all that
mhm.
stuff, right? I mean, it's August, it's 4 months away. And people seem to behave worse during the time that they're supposed to be more receptive to others.
Yeah. Well, and the key word here is supposed to.
Yeah,
Are the key words, really. And what that means when we say supposed, it means that we have an expectation. So
right.
where does the expectation of being in peace and love and harmony come from? And why is it at odds with the expectation of capitalism? We
And
should
then here
buy
comes
and
somebody who
consume
had a bad
and
day.
have all these
Ah,
we've got to get all these presents and we got to get all this food and we
right,
got to do this and we got to do this.
right.
So you have to step back from the billboard, right?
Yeah.
And choose sovereignty. What do I want? What are the expectations I have for myself? Right? Do I have to follow all these traditions and these belief systems and
And put all
this
this pressure
capitalistic
on myself.
right? I have at least one time in my adult life chosen not to decorate, not to prepare food, and I only
And the
gave
world didn't
gifts.
end.
Right, only gave gifts, and I chose that because I knew I had had a really tumultuous time that year, and it was like I was facing the fact that I could. It was like, can I actually just say fuck it to tradition? Can I say fuck it to capitalistic society? Can I say fuck it? I want to celebrate this season my way
Right.
without religious overtones. That's fine if you want to follow that. Yes, okay. But can I do it my way? Period. Yes, I can. And I did. And I didn't feel so stressed. And I didn't break
Exactly.
the bank.
Right.
So, I
And no
think
one
sometimes
died.
we forget. We forget. We get so tied up in meeting the expectations of everybody else around us, our families, our communities, our work, like the whole world, our religion, like all of these different systems around us. And we forget that we are a sovereign being. How do you even change a tradition to begin with? You have to acknowledge some kind of level of sovereignty first to say, wait a minute, we don't have to do it that way. Let's try this. In that moment, you acknowledge some sovereignty. If we are constantly following the rules and following, I hate to say it this way, y'all, but following the law and following the rules and following
Can we just
the
be
traditions
civil?
and the religion,
Can we just
right?
be civil
Then
people?
nothing ever changes.
Yeah,
We
can we just
don't
be civil
ascend.
people there?
We don't raise in consciousness
Right.
and everything. Like, look at our banking system. Look at our education system, our medical industry, oil, technology. All of these systems have such an impact on us individually through that trickle down
Hmm.
effect. And if you control any of those, then you control the people. But if the people say, wait a minute, I don't have to do that.
I don't need to drive, 25, 30 miles to get the perfect gift for my child
Or
or
I'm supposed to have
my
this
spouse
MRI. Right. Like, here's something I ran into personally
or don't have to
recently.
go to that
My
party.
right,
I don't feel like going.
my insurance company required an x-ray on my knee before they would approve an MRI. My doctor and I both
That's
knew that
what?
no
What?
x-ray was really needed. The
What?
only reason an x-ray would be needed is to see how much space there is, to see if there's, how much cartilage
But
wear
the
might be there.
MRI would take care of all of that anyway.
You
Duh.
think, but who got to dictate that? And guess who had to pay for it? Okay, here's another thing.
Your insurance.
I can tell
So it was like, let's just get
as a
more money for
provider,
this. Yeah.
right. Now, as a provider, I can tell an insurance company I charge $150 an hour. That insurance company has the right to come back and say, nah, we're only going to pay you $80. But why can't I go to the IRS and say, oh, you say I owe you $20,000. I'm just going to give you 1,000 and you can't argue with me. You got to take it.
Yeah. And listen, I was
Somebody
on
make it make sense.
I was on disability and the they kicked me off because I was making too much money at my job and I was working only part-time and I was on commission and I didn't call and say, "Okay, stop paying me disability." I just kept taking the check and and taking the check at my job. And then eventually they did the numbers and they came back they said, "You owe us $45,000." And I
Mhm,
said, "Guess what? I have no money to pay you. I'll pay you $100 a month
mhm.
till the day I die."
I'm like, how long can I sit in jail to
Right.
clear my IRS debt? Because, I mean,
Yeah. So
somebody give
I
me a
said,
figure.
I don't have it and I don't know how you're gonna get it. And there's no point in putting me in jail because then you definitely won't get anything. And so I said,
Plus, I'm a medical risk.
and not only that, yeah, and I'm a risk. And I just got off of the phone with someone today at my day job where the girl was, they owed money. The girl was crying. She was, upset with having to pay the whole debt and whatever. And she was kept harping about a $30 charge when the whole thing was actually $1,900. And I said, I don't think it's a big deal for us to take off $30, but you're gonna have to pay the rest of it. And she was crying, like, and started crying uncontrollably. And, I said, you're having a rough time. You're having a bad day. I ended up on the phone with her for 29, 30 minutes just because, I calmed her down. And I said, she was trying to eventually buy a house. I said, listen, I said, in 5 years, you're not going to remember any of this. You're not going to care. You're going to be in your house. You're going to pay this off. I said, she was saying, oh, I can only pay $50 every 2 weeks. I said, that's fine. I don't care. I mean, even though I'm not going to make a whole lot of commission off of that, I said, it, it came around and she was cursing at me. She was crying and she was cursing. And I just let the cursing go right out the window. And so with my neighbor and all my other neighbors and whatever, I have to be mentally the same way that I am at my job. So when somebody calls me a name, curses at me,
Regulated.
whatever, it rolls right off my back like a duck. It's like it didn't even happen. It's been, I've been on and off in that environment for since I was 19 years old. And at the end of the day, it was a win because we turned it around. She gave me the credit card to charge her, what, $50 every 2 weeks, whatever. And so, my boss said, why are you only taking $50 every 2 weeks? I said, because she was crying and cursing when we started. And I said, I said, I should be paid $150 an hour for therapy. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
I know very often a therapist in my job
Mhm.
when people, and people will end up calling back and apologizing. Because, yeah, I'll just say, you're going to curse at me, click, that's it. Hang up the phone, we're done.
And a lot of people think that if you're spiritual, it's supposed to be all love and
Yeah,
light
yeah,
and all this,
yeah.
and you're not ever supposed to get
Like you're supposed to walk
angry
around
or
singing
you're s-
Kumbaya.
no, 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 no. We're meant to experience all the feelings. The lesson is how we handle it and what we
Right.
learn from those experiences. But we are meant to also have things like sacred fury rather than egoic anger, grief. It's not a sign of, oh, life is over. It is a sign I loved, right? So a lot of things are about perspective. A lot of things are about why is it that I can stay regulated with this woman who's cursing me and crying and she's very dysregulated, but my neighbor over here is calm as a cucumber and won't cut down the damn tree, right? So a lot of times it comes down to, okay, let me sift through. Am I responding or am I reacting?
Right.
With the lady on the phone, you were responding. With your neighbor, you're
And
reacting.
I was empathizing. I was
Yeah, we don't
empathizing,
empathize much when
and I
we
don't
react because we're
empathize with
usually
my neighbor. I don't know why. But I'm gonna
reacting.
cut you off only because we have like 3 minutes left. But I want to thank you so much for your patience, first of all, because I know it's been like a road up and down with my recording. But thank you so much for
There's
the
a
free
lesson in that.
advice, free advice, free therapy. Thank you. But thank you so much for coming back on. But thank you so much for your generosity, your time, your willingness to come back. And appreciate you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you for having me on. I
I
enjoy these kind of conversations.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when you talk about what you love, then, you do when you're doing what you love, then, and this is what I love to do is talk to people about, from different walks of life. And a lot of, like my friend that I started, originally the podcast with didn't really like talking to people. She would like true crime stuff. So I said, you're gonna go do a true crime podcast?
Right.
Go do it.
Right.
Go and do it and be great at it. So thank you so much for coming back. And hopefully if you have to come back again, we'll get an
We'll just
even
schedule it.
deeper, we'll get an even deeper conversation.
Yep.
So I'm gonna say good night and thank you again. And
Absolutely.
for those people who are following, subscribe and listen and watch, and I will get this whole episode together eventually. Okay. Good night.